I think mindset is like everything. I mean, if you're doing all this and you're stressed, like, oh my God, am I doing it right? Am I not? Like whatever that background noise is, you got to calm it down. And I have this like, 3-step formula is just like, what's your intention? What's your why? And what are your resources?
Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Performance Life podcast. Today, I am very excited to have Julie Gibson Clark on the line with us. She is a former structural engineer turned recruiter who spent over a year holding the second ranked spot on the Rejuvenation Olympics leaderboard prior to the rule change. So we're going to talk about the Rejuvenation Olympics. I think it's super cool. And despite her modest budget, Julie's biohacking routine is refreshingly simple, a focus on mindset, regular exercise, sauna, vegetable-rich diet, a selection of affordable supplements. We're going to talk about her routines and diet and all of that right here. But here's the important part that I really love. Her most recent DNA methylation test revealed a remarkable aging pace of just 65 days for every 100 days. So that is pretty remarkable. She's literally slowing down the aging process by her health habits and routines, which we are going to talk about here today. So Julie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Talora. I'm very excited and honored to speak with you and your audience. So thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. This is an absolute joy. And I think let's start with like a little bit about how did you get into this health journey that you're on now? Maybe a little bit of the backstory.
Yeah, right. Well, probably like many, many people, right? We don't make changes until something goes drastically wrong or you don't feel very good. And so you have to fix it, right? And then you start going down those rabbit holes. And I went through a pretty rough time in my 30s with like a marriage, a divorce. It all, like I told I had 2 lumps in my left breast. I was going through, kind of pretty bad depression. What else was going on? Anyway, and then I had a man try to kidnap me at knife point. This is all happening in 36 months. So from marriage to divorce, like it was just a lot for a 30-year-old, I think. I mean, you don't think you're young at 30, but looking back, I was. And I had a lot of acid reflux. So when I went to the doctor to ask for help with that, I was already on an antidepressant, which I needed at that time, given everything I was going through. And then she's just like, okay, well, here's a prescription for, some antacid or something. And it was just kind of like, you'll be on this also the rest of your life. And I just kept thinking, I don't know, like if I feel like my stomach is bothering me and all this, like, isn't it something I'm eating? I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me. And, I just didn't really want to be on medication my whole life. And so I just thought, is there another solution? Now, I was living in Portland, Oregon at the time, and this naturopathic school of medicine was there. And I had several friends that were, kind of learning about this and telling me about it and how this, was a different way of looking at the body and disease and this and that. So I thought, well, what the heck? I'll go see a naturopathic doctor and see if that makes any difference. And sure enough, I mean, she's just like, oh, well, get off all wheat and dairy, and then gave me this like tummy healing tea and a few supplements. And within 2 weeks, all the acid reflux was gone. I started losing weight. I was just like, wow, like what's going on? And so then when I went back to check in with her, she said, it was like maybe a few weeks later, she said, well, if you want to try to get off your antidepressant, we can, like she had asked me a few questions too, where are you psychologically now, all of those kind of things. And also asked a very important question, how much do you drink? Are you exercising? Are you, what do you eat? And it's like, oh, I drink a bottle of wine a night. It was just like, these no de hoys, like, so she's like, yeah, you got to stop that. And then she gave me what I had never heard this term before, but a nutraceutical protocol. And I did fine. And I went right off of it. And I was just shocked. Again, everything that predicated needing that antidepressant was in, I had a, serious therapeutic support. I had a great group of friends now. It was just, I was in a better place. So it was with that nutraceutical protocol, it was like, wow. And so I'd never heard that term before, but I was also really impressed with the fact that nutraceuticals could be as effective as medication, especially when you no longer needed that medication. So that was very, it was just like, whoa, okay. Like, so now when something goes wrong, I just always sought out, like, are there nutraceuticals that I can use, to help, at least as a first line defense? Because, obviously sometimes you need medication, sometimes you need an antibiotic or something like that. But a lot of those medications, as we all know from watching the commercials, all the different stuff they come with. So, it's always like, let me at least try this nutraceutical protocol, because maybe the trade-off isn't as, what do you say, dangerous, or I don't know. So that was kind of the first thing. And then I started working out. Obviously after her asking me about my diet, it was like, oh, okay, maybe I should eat healthier. And I'm a cook. And so that kind of started this, well, if I'm going to take the time to cook, what's the healthiest thing to cook? And so I just kind of started going on this journey of reading, different nutritionists and like whatever I could get my hands on, like what is the best diet. So of course I explored keto, vegan, high protein, low protein, Ornish, like all of those things, and kind of just trying all, like what I could go on, like I would call it a try it, and it's like, well, let me try this out and see after a few months, how do I actually feel? So that was one of them. And then in my 40s, I went through another tough time. In my hair started falling out, and I was just like this, like, I mean, just even thinking back on this, I just feel so much like more like psychological pain. It's so tired. And my son was like 3, and I didn't have the energy even to take care of him. I would sleep, all night long. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And like I said, my hair was falling out. And that's when my friend just said, well, didn't you just have some like dental work done? Maybe you should go get checked for heavy metal poisoning. And I had these dental amalgams removed. And sure enough, when I went and got checked for it, she had a medical doctor. She said, go have him do a provoked urine test. So we did that. And it was like, not only did I have like mercury and lead, but I had a bunch of other weird ones. I mean, her comment was, quote unquote, were you working in a Chinese factory? Like, what were you, like a Chinese mine? Like, she just was like, wow, and anyway, so then she put me on chelation therapy. Again, these are kind of big nutraceutical protocols. And we did that for like 12 weeks. And at week 6, I was like driving home. I'll never forget this day, like driving home. And it felt like this fog had lifted and that my peripheral vision actually opened up. And I just felt like, wow, like, is this how everybody feels? Like, I've been walking around like this, like in this cloud for years. I didn't even know. And so then it just became like, well, what else do I not know that I don't know? Like how, like, is there other ways that I might feel good? And so, now the internet's a thing, and I'm like researching everything, like how to naturally detox. Cause that was the other thing we went through my DNA tests, and she said, you don't naturally detoxify very well. So having lived all over the world by that time and being an adventurous eater, clearly I picked up any toxins that were happening and just not able to detoxify them. So I just kind of got obsessed with like, well, how can I safely, like, what are the everyday things I can do to detoxify, and what is that? And, what compounds, what foods, what behaviors, all of that. And so that just kind of started this journey that ultimately led me to reading about senolytics, and this detoxing zombie cells. I was like, wow, that's interesting. What is that? And then when I went to order a product that had those, that in the compound, like some of the senolytics, so fisetin was one that I was really interested in. Novos came up, and which is a company. Anyway, I won't get too into that. But then when I went to order it, they asked if I wanted to be part of a study. And, unbeknownst to me, they were kind of a young company. I didn't know that, but I just thought, well, yeah, like, why wouldn't I want to be part of a study to find out if the supplement that I'm going to, be on actually works? So it was a no-brainer for me to take part in that study. And so that study was right around when the Rejuvenation Olympics was started. So they asked, do you want to be in this? And can we, post your results to it. And I was like, sure. So that's how this all started.
Amazing. That's a really great story. A lot of good stuff in there that I'm sure we'll dig into as well. So let's actually maybe explain a little bit of background. So what is the Rejuvenation Olympics, and how did they first measure the rate of aging, and who would be at the top of the leaderboard?
Yeah, so I don't know the origin story, because honestly, so when I was first introduced to it, I just thought it kind of had like more of like a Facebook interface, and so it had like, who you were, your pace of aging, your change in your pace of aging. So if you had multiple results, your chronological age, and then like your protocol, like what protocol were you using. And I thought, wow, this is so cool. Like all these health geeks like me, we can compare, is something working? And so you could see, somebody's difference. If it was huge, I was like, ooh, what are they doing? Like that was very interesting. Or somebody who was, older than me and had a similar pace of aging, that was just really interesting to kind of dig into their protocol. And we all had kind of a Facebook page at that time. So I kind of just thought it would be like almost like its own little Facebook group. I really didn't think it was something that would ever get media attention, for sure. I mean, I just thought it was like for weird people like me. And so, so the first thing was just, we were ranked by pace of aging, but ranked like weighted for your chronological age, because as you get older, that pace of aging is harder to slow down. I can't speak to the science of all this, but Hannah Wint has a podcast and she gets into that at more details. So any of the sciencey people out there that want to look that up,
the rate of aging
available.
is based on a methylation, some sort of methylation test. Is that right? I haven't heard of that one, actually.
It's your DNA methylation. So it's, all the, I don't even know how to explain it. The way I look at it is like, you've got this strip of DNA and you've got, how gunked up is that, I mean, that's like the short of how I kind of visualize it in my brain. Is it gunked up? Is it, are the right things turned on? Are the right things turned off? So that's essentially how I understand it. Again, not a scientist, structural engineer. So, all the scientists out there, I'm sorry if you're cringing. Anyway, so that when that came, go ahead.
Yeah. So then that came out, you did the methylation test, and you were number 2 on the leaderboard. And there was out of a lot of people there.
Well, so so what happened was I took the DNA methylation test before I started Novos, and they wouldn't give me my results because I was part of a study and they didn't want me to, and again, perfectly honest, I didn't even know, like I was more interested in what my bio age was at the time. We were using the True Diagnostic and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I'll get my bio age. I didn't know what, pace of aging was. And so, as I've learned about it, I'm like, oh, actually that's way more relevant than your bio age. But, so my first pace of aging before starting Novos was 0.78. And then I went 6 months on the product and we took another test. And in that 6 months, like all the longevity practices we might get into that I do, like they were out the window. I went through a very rough time with a family member and was not sleeping, I was eating like In-N-Out burger. It was rough, but I was like, oh, this is this young company. Like I told them I would be part of this study. So I'll at least take their product, like I can do that every day, but everything else was very inconsistent. And the 6-month pace of aging came back at 0.76 was my first pace of aging. And then it was 0.68 was my 6 month. And then 6 months more at that second 6 months, everything was kind of resolved. And I was able to, I would start at the gym, the sauna, all the things that I do now, in a concrete way. And then that lowered my pace of aging to 0.65. So, and in that, it was like around 6 months is when I was introduced to this Rejuvenation Olympics. And, so that's when I was like, oh, this is interesting. And again, I didn't understand the significance of pace of aging. I had no idea that, I didn't know who Brian Johnson was. I didn't know. I could see from kind of looking at his protocol that he had linked. I thought, wow, that's pretty in depth. That's amazing. What is he doing? But I didn't understand like, oh, he's spending 2 million, and none of that was really that relevant to me.
Right, right. Yeah. And that's really the key here, right? Is that you were competing against people who were literally spending millions of dollars a year on their health. And what
Yeah.
was the number that you were spending?
I mean, at that time, definitely like around 100. I mean, Business Insider did a great article where we went through, okay, actually, how much do you spend on vegetables? Like what are you spending a week on groceries and all of that stuff? And I think it came out to still, it's like 150. I mean, whatever, we're splitting hairs. Even if it came out to 200 versus 2 million, it's like, so it's just not much. And I hope what people take away from this is like, it's possible to do really great things with very little. And I think that the big movers on your pace of aging are your diet and exercise. It's like all the behaviors are really what matter more. I mean, you're going to need a few supplements, but not a lot.
Right, right. Yeah, definitely diet and exercise are going to be the two biggest, I think, needle movers. So yeah, let's talk a little bit then. When you were having this incredible slowed down rate of aging, what did your diet look like?
So, well, like I said, the first 6 months, none of this is relevant. It was really just kind of, I mean, I had been doing great things for years before that. So I'm sure that's, was reflected in that score. And it was just adding that, compound, all those molecules that change things. But, so the diet is basically like I prioritize about a pound of vegetables a day. And I don't, let's just, above ground vegetables, so not like potatoes don't count towards that. Maybe sweet potato maybe might count towards that, but usually don't. So it's just, and then of that pound of vegetables, I try to make sure half of those are greens, and half of those are just kind of like, yeah, cooked, or I eat them raw, but in the winter it might be a veggie soup. But anyway, so that's kind of like the one thing. And then the other thing is 100 grams of protein. I had done a DEXA, and so I got my lean body mass, which is at about 99 pounds. And so, using what people are recommending, it sounds like I should have 100 grams of protein. So I've been doing that, and lately been trying to do a little bit more so I can build my muscles. And so that's the food. And then the exercises, I do a VO2 max once a week, and I also do a HIIT once a week. And then the other days are 4 days of weight training.
When you say you do a VO2 max once a week, you take a VO2 max test,
Oh,
or
sorry. No, yeah, sorry. I do a VO2, a workout that's supposed to help me increase my VO2 max, which is a Norwegian 4x4, usually on the step mill.
so yeah, tell us about that.
Okay. And I do it on Mondays because it's like, oh, just get this thing over with, like rip that Band-Aid off, and I also figure like, the diet, when we get into it, that's kind of Monday through Friday. Saturday, Sunday, it's pretty relaxed, and definitely on Sunday. So if I have had a treat or, kind of extra stuff, that's going to be on Sunday. So I figure like maybe there's a little extra glycogen hanging out in my system, so for that VO2 max, it'll be a little easier on that day. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, and for listeners who aren't completely familiar, VO2 max is one of the, I believe, most closely correlated measurements in terms of health and longevity and lifespan and all the good things regarding health. So anything you can do to increase your VO2 max, right, would be extremely, extremely beneficial. And so it's typically, yeah, I mean, there's actually a few different ways, but yeah, I'm curious to hear exactly like what this protocol is, and if you've seen it have a measurable effect on your VO2 max.
hmm Yeah, so it's a Norwegian 4x4, which basically means you get on, you do 3 minutes slow, just a gentle warm up. You want to kind of keep your heart rate nice and low, not even in a zone 2, like just mine usually kind of, because that's a step mill, it's pretty easy to get up to zone 2. But and then you want to do 4 minutes at like your max heart rate. And so yeah, I mean, I just crank the tunes, and you know yeah, I try to make it fun, but with the music and things like that. And then you're going to do 4 cycles of that. So 3 minutes slow, 4 minutes fast, 3 minutes slow, 4 minutes fast. That's 4 times. So it's a Norwegian 4x4. So the whole thing takes 28 minutes. And of course, I just do a 2-minute cool down. We call it an even 30 minutes. Um, yeah.
Nice, nice. And do you feel like that drains you more than a regular workout, by the way?
Not anymore. No, no. And
Ah,
um, yeah, I don't know. I never feel drained after it. I wouldn't say that I walk out of the gym feeling more energized than any other day that I'm in the gym. Let's, like because I'm always kind of doing a little bit of the step mill. But yeah, no, it feels really good. Actually, if anything, I feel like my lungs get cleaned out. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm breathing something bad around my house, but I always feel like, oh, I can breathe a little better. I don't know. Something's going on there, but
great.
yeah, it's good. And have I seen a change? Unfortunately, not by the official measuring. So I went in and did a DEXA and a VO2 max test, and my VO2 max was like at 34. And so I waited, I think, I did this training for like 9 months, and I couldn't wait to get back in there because when I got that 34, I kept thinking, I know I've got more in the tank. But one, I was doing I normally do my workout on a step mill, and now I was trying to do it on a treadmill and running, and I don't usually run. So it was a little bit funny. So my second one was 31, and I was just like, what is, and it was weird because when I was doing it, I was like I could, how you get, I don't know, when I'm working out, I can always feel like, oh, you got more, keep, push it, push it, push it. I couldn't push it. And I just had to stop. I was like, I had to stop. And then it turned out 2 days later, I had COVID. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's why, that's why that didn't work out so well. So I need to go back and get an official test done. But I use a polar heart rate monitor. And of course, this is, whatever logarithmic, but it's been pretty consistent, and that score is anywhere between 34 and 38 when I do the quote unquote little fitness test that they have on there. So I know it's somewhere in there, which is pretty good for a 56-year-old. And you talked about this, but I just want to point out to people, like even for elite athletes and people that constantly work out, like your VO2 max is going to go down over the course of your life, like period. That's just the same thing with your muscle mass. So, my point is always like, let's just go from great to good instead of good to not so great, like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Um, and then I know even actually when I was looking at your website, you actually had what you were eating or what you typically eat, I think on your website laid out, right?
I
JulieGibsonClark.com.
I do. Yeah. That's all in there. I do need to update my workout because I've kind of changed that all around. I'm a evolving human being. So I'm always testing new things. I'm eating cottage cheese these days, and I've gone back to regular whey protein. But, for the most part, yeah, that's like basically what I do. And, yeah, the
And
holidays, we
yeah,
let loose a little bit. Yeah. Anyway.
yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, what are some of your kind of favorite? Looks like you take some supplements here as well.
Mhm.
Like, is that based on blood test results that you took and saw that you want to get these levels up, or just based on just general?
The only thing that's on there that's based on blood tests and, I need it is the B complex. And in fact, I'm about to take that out because it's like I'm getting kind of over methylated these days. So, but like I test my vitamin D levels. I take vitamin D3, K2, but I started taking it not because I had a test, and a doctor recommended it. It was just, hey, this is something good to take. And then of course now I measure my levels and I'm, um, right at kind of, I don't know if it's like somewhere between 70 and 90 usually is what I come up with. But, and then like the fish oil, I haven't done an omega test yet, but I just take that because I know it's good for you. Um, what else is on there? Magnesium. Yes. The magnesium is based on blood work, and I am, for whatever reason, chronically deficient in magnesium. So I take a lot of it. And in fact, recently, still after taking like, I don't know, 900 milligrams a day, it's like I still came back deficient. So we're trying to figure out other ways to get that in and why I might not be absorbing it so well. So, but yeah, so most of those things are, they're all measured in some way, but I didn't always start, because I had a deficiency.
Right, right. Gotcha. Um, and what do you think What are some other important parts of your protocol that you think maybe, yeah, like the regular listeners, like, okay, what, okay, diet. She got pretty clean diet. Seems like she even on the weekends is a little more loose. That sounds easy enough. Workouts. Okay, got some hard workouts in there and some cycles. Got to put in some work. Okay,
Yeah.
100 grams of protein sounds very reasonable to hit. So far doesn't sound too crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And the only other thing I do, I've just added this year on a 3 month every 3 months, I'm doing a 5 day fasting mimicking diet. Before I would like fast every so often, but there was never any, you know, definite period to it. It was just always like, oh, I'm kind of gaining a little weight. I'm going to, do. But now I was like, no, you know what, just do one every 3 months. So I'm about to start another one here pretty soon.
Is that the
But that's
Prolong fasting mimicking diet? That one?
yeah, I've tried doing it on my own and I have done like water fast, but I just hit a wall like around day 3 and I pushed myself through day 4, but it's just so ridiculous. And so I just thought, oh, let me try the Prolon. And I was like, well, this is easy, like, I mean, it's really not that hard compared to like a water only fast. So
Yeah.
I've just felt a lot better and I felt like I could actually exercise and do the things I want to do. But
That's right. That's right. It seems a little more sustainable. I mean, it's really tough for the average, especially the average person who, is not really kind of fat adapted, like,
mhm,
maybe eats a higher carb diet, or whatever, to just all
mhm.
of a sudden cut out and go 3 to 5 days or whatever on just water is really tough for
Yeah.
the average person. So it seems like, yeah, we've had him on the podcast years ago, actually. But it sounds
Yeah.
really interesting. And so that's just, they give you a whole protocol and you just do that for 5 days or a week or something.
Yeah, because I mean, what's important about this, and I'm not, I guess I think I have an affiliate link for them, but just, to be clear, like I want people to understand what I love about it. I mean, if I had my own personal chef, I could do it without them, but it's just that it's like your brain kind of goes haywire those first 2 days, and you just need this thing that it's like, okay, it's all planned out, it's easy. Whereas if I was trying to cook for myself, my little monkey mind would start going, well, you could have a little extra of this. Oh, it won't hurt you. So, oh, you're having so little. I mean, I would blow it. I would blow it. I would definitely. And then I wouldn't get the results I want. And then I wouldn't know exactly which little place, it's more of a mental reason that I do that. It just keeps everything clean and easy and just, you know, simple. So that's why I do that. But
Makes sense.
yeah.
Makes sense.
And I'm sorry, you asked me another question, and I'm not sure I answered it. Is there
Just
anything?
basically like what else do you think is an important part of your protocol? I think you mentioned sauna. Like I know I also, when I took a
Yes.
DNA test, they're like, hey, you don't have the optimal genes for detox. You should sauna like all the
Hmm.
time. And
Yeah.
I don't do it quite enough. I have one and need to use it a lot more. But is that a big one for you?
That's a big one. Yep. Yeah, for sure. And in fact, let's actually go back to an even bigger one, which is mindset, which is where sauna comes in. I think mindset is like everything. I mean, if you're doing all this and you're stressed, like, oh my God, am I doing it right? Am I not? Like whatever that background noise is, you got to calm it down. And I have this like, 3-step formula is just like, what's your intention, what's your why, and what are your resources? Get that figured out first. So like, do you intend like Brian Johnson, he's going to not die, and then, or do you intend to just live healthier for longer? Do you intend to, whatever your intention is around your longevity, like figure that out. And I don't really have a number either. Mine is just healthier for longer. And hopefully, I'm blessed with 100+ years and, strong and vital in all those years. That's kind of my intention. But then you have to figure out a why. Like, why are you going to get up and go to the gym? Why are you going to make any changes? Because if you don't have that figured out, none of this is going to stick. And so, for me, I'm a single mom. I've got one son, and I just want to watch him grow and I want to watch his life. I mean, like any parent, you just want to be around as long as possible for your children. I mean, he's 18 now and I'm still like, oh, I want to make sure you're okay. And, even my mom still, like, I still text her when I get home after a drive home, it's like, I'm okay, I'm safe. So I'm sure like that's part of it. And I know that'll grow and evolve and hopefully I'll be blessed with grandchildren, but that's kind of a big part of my why. But the other really big part is watching my parents, my dad's dealing with a little bit of dementia. He's doing pretty good actually for 86, 87. And my mom is now dealing with Parkinson's. And so every time I go into the gym, it's just an easy, like, this is why you're doing it. So there's a, done. And then I kind of sat down and figured out my resources. And, unlike the millionaires and billionaires out there, I don't have that kind of money. I have some that I can dedicate towards this. But so then when the information comes at me that I'm learning, it's like, well, I can filter certain things, can just go like, okay, well, I know I'm not going to, I'm not going to get an 8 sleep. That's just like not in the cards for me, like that's just, boom, put it out of your mind. And so there's not like, I try to keep, my point is I'm just trying to keep all that mental chatter as clean and quiet as possible so that I can just do what I need to do. And I think that people need to back up before we start talking about all the different stuff and figure out those 3 things. And then, the mental chatter can kind of calm down. It keeps you a little less stressed. And so, yeah. And the sauna comes in there because that was one of my original motivators to getting to the gym, because I like to get up early and get it done. Because if I put it at the end of the day, like, it just doesn't get done. There's so many other things get in the way, and it just doesn't get done. So I have to get up early before I can even think about all the things I need to do and get to the gym. And the only thing I think about is like, well, I don't really want to work out today, but I can go and get in the sauna. That's good for me. That's kind of a workout. And of course I walk in the gym and I'm like, all right, like, I don't want Parkinson's. I don't want, like, I gotta get in there and do something. So I'll do, it's like, okay, just do 1 set of each thing. And then before you know it, it's all done and I'm in the sauna and, whatever. So I just think mindset's really, really important, and we don't talk about it enough. And just all the mental stuff I think is really, really important.
100%. Yeah, that's such a good point. I'm really glad you brought that up, because again, I've said this before on the podcast, like, we've had a couple hundred episodes, lack of information on what to do is not really the problem. In fact, maybe we could talk about the amount of overage of information, or however you would call it, with all these different people giving different advice, confusing, which again goes back to why the mindset is so important. Like, get clear, and then when you get clear, you can eliminate all the distractions and not even worry about everything else. So, but yes, I agree. It's like, we know what to do. The information is easily accessible on kind of what to do. So then why are we not doing it? Right. And I think that's where, whatever it is, could be past trauma, could be voices in the head telling you different things, or you're not clear, or you get anxiety. But it's kind of just like how you said about the prolonged fasting mimicking diet. Is just like, okay, I know, like, I just follow this and eat this at lunch and eat this at dinner. And I know, like, I'm good. I don't have to think about it. And so, yeah, if you can get clear and not have to think about it, I think that's just absolutely huge.
Yeah. It's like this, I mean, certain things I just need what I call like a drill sergeant, like I used to love to go to hot yoga, because it was just like, okay, I don't have to think, like, they're just going to tell me what to do and I'm just going to do it. And that's how Prolon is for me. It's like, I don't, because I'm not going to feel good. And so I just need somebody to be my drill sergeant in those moments. Like, here's what you're doing, do it. And then other times I need to be the one, driving the train. But the other thing that is part of my protocol is daily meditation. And so again, that kind of helps with, more so with stress. I do transcendental meditation, which sounds very woo-woo, but it's, just very basic. And in fact, the least woo-woo meditation I've ever done. So that just really, I think, also helps lower my stress levels and helps me sleep better at night. So yeah, and I think that's a key, and that's basically free, I mean.
Yeah, I did take the transcendental meditation course one time years ago. Unfortunately, I didn't follow through on it very good. I think I didn't like my mantra or something, but it was like triggering something weird for me, like when I would hear the mantra. But
it's funny because I know they designed those mantras so that they didn't remind people of anything, like that they didn't sound like any words, so that you wouldn't be triggered. So do you know though, I think it changes with like your age too. Like,
yeah. The guy, you go in, for those that don't know Transcendental Meditation, I think they have offices in probably most major cities, and you go in, you meet someone, obviously you pay a fee, but small fee, and they and then they I don't know, based on your age or personality, I don't know what exactly, he gives you some mantra, and then you're kind of just meditating on this mantra for, what do you do, typically 20 minutes a day or something?
Yeah, I think they recommend 20 minutes twice a day, but I just don't have, I don't have time
It's
for
hard.
that. I'm
Yeah.
like, I was like, but I do 20 minutes in the afternoon. And then sometimes after that, not going to lie, sometimes I lay down and take a 10-minute nap, but that depends, depends on the day. Like I've been going, menopause has kind of been kicking my butt lately. So yeah.
Actually, this has been the issue with me with meditating is like a lot of times when I meditate, I'm just like falling asleep. And I actually don't
Yeah.
like to nap during the day. I feel actually more lethargic after a nap. I'm one of these people that just wants to go
Oh.
all day and then just pass out at night. But
Hmm.
so that's been actually one of the challenges for me. And people are like, oh, well, maybe that means you're tired or something. Or I don't know, like, why are you always falling asleep? But no,
Maybe.
it's a great practice. I do a lot of other quiet time, thinking, retrospecting, no electronics, kind of outside. But yeah, it's just some sort of mindfulness practice. I think is absolutely huge, especially again because I think going back to what you talked about with mindset, I think this is so key for. I hope people really are getting this. It's like quieting the mind and this chatter and anxiety and stuff that so many people have in their head. Like when you can actually like quiet that, and again like writing, whatever it is, whether it be journaling or writing out a plan, right? Like so like I assume like when you're in your groove, like, hey, I'm doing this, I'm having this for breakfast, I'm going to the gym at this time, I'm
Hmm.
doing this, and then it just takes away kind of the anxiety and the pressure around it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do a lot of prep on Sundays to get everything, ready. And that's kind of what my YouTube channel is, hopefully to help people figure out like, okay, here's how we kind of get everything ready. But what was I going to say? I think one of the things I want people to take away too is like, yeah, we have all this mind chatter. And even if you sit down and meditate and you can't slow down that mind chatter. Don't make yourself wrong. Like, don't add any chatter to the chatter. Like, just keep looking for teachers and different ways that work for you. Another, there's different spiritual practices. I think the same thing, like the whole goal is to kind of just get past that, quote unquote piece of understanding, like just where is that? And maybe it's just sitting in a chair and listening for the birds, and kind of just trying to figure out, like everybody has to find their own thing. And I'm not prescriptive. This just TM works for me. And then I also have a morning prayer routine that's really, really important to me too. And just to sit and be quiet, and so, maybe it's Zen Buddhism that appeals to you. Maybe it's, whirling dervishes. Like everybody has the thing that is attractive and works for them. And you just have to kind of go on an exploration until you find it. But yeah,
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. I love that. I mean, actually, I'd be curious to know, are there any books or teachers or seminars or coaching programs that had a big impact on your life?
Yeah. So I was lucky enough back when I was 30 years old. I hooked up with a group of coaches that they were phenomenal. They're no longer around, but I still work with one of my coaches. But they were like a group of nurses and like they got trained, they were trained shaman. Like they went down to, Peru. Like they were so interesting and they were therapists. And, so the one that I work with is a trained therapist, but then as a group, they all kind of like work together. And so that really helped me, especially at that time. And then I kind of just have stayed in touch with my coach. And now I just, when I need something. But the other person that I find, and I hope people don't chuckle at this, but I really like Eckhart Tolle. I really enjoy listening to him because it's so not, there's not any one, I mean, I don't buy into any one teacher 100%. I mean, like I'm Catholic, but even then I would tell you I'm a cafeteria Catholic. Like I just, there's things that I take and things that I just leave, with any spiritual teacher for sure. But, there's just always like little practices in there that I find very useful. Again, the whole point in getting to that kind of just peace, in my mind, because that peace in your mind, as TM kind of it teaches you, if there's a lot of mind chatter, that means there's probably something in the body that's, off. And so it takes a while to calm that down. And so, the two circle together. So if you can calm down the mind, you can calm down the body, or if you can calm down the body, you can calm down the mind. Like as in the case of when I did the heavy metal cleansing, like once that chelation therapy got to a point where my cells now were in a good place, my mind was now in a good place, and vice versa. If I can calm down my mind, I can sometimes just kind of calm down my body. So the two work together, and it's figuring out, a doorway in, so for some people, they need to take care of the body first, and then the mind will calm down, and then they can calm down the mind and the body calms down more. It's like a spiral.
Yeah, I mean, I find that for sure. Like when you gain momentum, right? It's like even if you just start going to the gym, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm going to the gym. I may as well eat a little healthier or eat a little more protein.
Yes.
And then you're less hungry for carbs. And then that has a positive effect. And then you start looking better. And then you're like, oh, I like this. I'm going to go to the gym, a little more. And then you start eating better. And then it kind of has this like, oh, you know what? I feel better now. I have more energy. Now I can do this or that. So yeah, definitely like getting in that positive loop and avoiding being in a negative loop, because that could be the same way, on the other side. Like you said, if you're drinking a bottle of wine every night and then you're waking up and you don't have a lot of energy the next day, or you're not obviously, if you've worn any kind of sleep tracking device and you've had a hard night of drinking, you see the impact that it has on your sleep. And then what's the difference when you have a bad sleep versus a good sleep, right?
Yeah, but let me point out too, you don't need that tracking device usually to know that you had a crappy night's sleep. So don't wait for the tracking device to tell you that you're sleeping horribly.
I'm actually quite aware of that too, like the placebo effect of things as well. Like you kind of got to be careful. So sometimes, like if I, this is like a bad trick, I guess, but if I feel like I had a bad night's sleep, I won't check the sleep tracker until like maybe at night or something, because like I don't want to. I'm like, I'd rather not know because it's just it's not gonna help the situation. So actually, I think it's kind of a good practice of not checking your sleep score if you do have a tracking device until the following night at least, or something like that, like after the day is over. Because if you check it early and like, first of all, in the beginning, I was like obsessed. I'd wake up and go, I got to check my sleep score, and then you check your score and it's like, oh shoot, it's not as good as the other day. Like I must be more tired today. Like that's very counterproductive.
That's not
so
helpful,
I had to break that cycle.
Yeah. I'm not finding my tracker very accurate. I gotta say, like, I mean, sometimes it says I'm in deep sleep and I'm like, I'm sitting here reading. I'm not sleeping, so I don't know, I don't know. And so I find that's when I started using my Polar, and I do a heart HRV test every morning on my Polar, and that definitely is way different than my tracker. So then I'm kind of like, and it'll say like, oh, you're at 90 beats per second on my heartbeat, and I'm looking at my Polar and it's like, you're at 65. I mean, it's just, I don't know if using a ring is so good for me. It might just be the way my body, is.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
it doesn't. I
like the 8 sleep because it gives me a positive placebo effect, because it gives pretty good scores. People who use the Oura ring and then they use the 8 sleep, they always get better scores on the 8 sleep. So I'm like, hey, I want the better score. It's going to make me feel better about myself.
For just so I'm not calling any company out, I don't have the Oura ring, and I'm not going to say who I have. So just anyway.
Cool. Good. Yeah. And that's a key part of what we love about you, is that like you're doing this on a budget. You don't need these tracking devices. You don't need any of these expensive kind of things, and you're just getting back to the basics. So we absolutely love this. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners here before we wrap up?
Just start. I think, don't listen to all this information. I had somebody recently reach out to me and say, I'm 54 and I'm really out of shape and this and that. Is it too late for me? And I'm like, never too late. Like it's never, ever. Even with my parents, I'm still kind of like, well, what about like, let me bring some weights down for you. Like it's just never too late to like increase the quality of your life. Again, okay, so maybe you go from not so great to good. That's fine. Like that's all good. Like whatever gains, it's healthier for longer, not, don't just give in. So yeah.
Love that. Absolutely love that. So you mentioned you have a YouTube channel, social media, or do you have any coaching programs or anything like that? Tell us how people can find you and follow you.
Yeah, no coaching programs for now. Right now, I'm just really kind of trying to find my voice in all of this. I mean, I'm just, your average human doing this and kind of figuring out where I fit into the space. And so many people had asked about my daily routines and how I so I started the YouTube channel to kind of show like what I'm cooking, what you can cook, how to set that up, and different recipes I'm using. So that's very nascent. Just, Anyway, it's there. And so that's juliegibsonclark.com. And then on Instagram, if you need to reach out to me, that's the best place to reach out to me. Instagram, juliegibsonclark.com. And then I do have a website, which I need to update, but it's at juliegibsonclark.com. So yeah, all of them.
Perfect.
Pretty easy.
Amazing. Well, this was absolutely a pleasure. I think many people will be inspired. We have a lot of women in their 40s and 50s and 60s listening and to this podcast, and a big audience in that age range. And so I think you're just a great inspiration for everyone. That like, hey, you can do this. You can, you can actually lower your rate of aging without having to spend millions of dollars, without having to be, not eating or cutting calories or, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, really appreciate that and all the information that you shared, and hope we can do it again sometime.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Talor. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, can you please leave us a rating or review and subscribe? I've realized that while we have actually increased our downloads a lot, we're actually getting a lot of downloads, which I'm really happy about. We actually have very few ratings. And I realized that I've never asked people really to rate much. So I'm asking you now if you could please rate and review and subscribe. And if you enjoyed the episode, please forward it along to anyone that you think will get value out of this. Also, if you haven't checked out our line of products at buypeakperformance.com, you get 20% off your first order. That's www.buypeakperformance.com. We have some incredible products, including our organic high-altitude coffee. If you don't know this, coffee is one of the most heavily sprayed with pesticides out of any crop. So it's really important that you drink organic coffee. We've gone above and beyond to source what we believe is the highest quality and healthiest organic coffee in the world. We're also famous for our organic green superfood powder. You can get 20% off of that as well at buypeakperformance.com. We also have an organic, vegan, and paleo plant protein. See, most of the vegan proteins out there are using brown rice protein, which is really not a good source of protein, and it's also a grain. And if you're paleo, you know that grains tend to cause inflammation in some cases for some people. And so we wanted to make one that was paleo friendly and vegan and organic. We made an amazing amino acid profile, so it's really one of the best plant proteins for muscle building. So you can check out Peak Performance Organic Plant Protein. You can find that on our website. Of course, all our products are on Amazon as well. So thanks again. And again, please, if you enjoyed the episode, please forward it along to someone who you feel can get value out of it. And please leave us a rating, review, and subscribe. Thank you.